Do you know, tonight, a piece of news has broken that could shake the entire world from its sleep. There is a place, the single most important energy artery on the planet, the passage through which the world's oil flows, the waterway on which the global economy depends. Tonight, that place has been mined. Mines, hidden bombs beneath the sea. And who did this? Iran. And what place is this? The Strait of Hormuz. And what does this mean? It means the world's oil supply could be cut off, oil prices could skyrocket, and a catastrophic war could ignite. Do not leave this channel, because in today's report, I will tell you everything that no one else is telling you. Good evening and welcome. You are watching Union Pulse Network, and I am your host, Rachel Maddow. Friends, today's story is not an ordinary news story. This is a story that directly affects the global economy, international politics, and world peace. An exclusive UNN report has revealed that Iran has begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical energy choke point. Now pause for just one moment. Before we go further, we need to understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is, because until you grasp the importance of this location, you cannot grasp the gravity of this story. The Strait of Hormuz is the narrow waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's crude oil passes every single day. 20%. Think about that. Nearly 1 in every 5 barrels of oil that powers our civilization flows through this one narrow passage, and now Iran has begun trying to close it. In this video, we will cover first, what is the Strait of Hormuz, and why does it matter so much? Second, what exactly Iran has done, and third, how America responded. Fourth, what President Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said. Fifth, what impact this could have on the global economy. Sixth, what this means for the broader region and developing nations. And seventh, what happens next. Is this the beginning of a wider war? Stay until the very end, because I will share one thing that will make you stop and think. So let us begin. Imagine you are hovering above the earth in a helicopter looking down at the Middle East. You can see a narrow strip of water connecting the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea. At its narrowest point, this passage is only 33 kilometers wide, just 33 kilometers. That is roughly the distance across a mid-sized city, and yet this 33-kilometer strip of water is arguably the single most strategically important piece of ocean on the planet. Iran controls its northern shore. Oman and the UAE hold the southern side. Through this passage flows an extraordinary volume of energy. Giant supertankers as long as 3 football fields haul millions of barrels of oil through this corridor every single day. Before this crisis, approximately 15 million barrels of crude oil passed through the strait every day. That is 15 million barrels every single day. Think about what would happen if this passage were closed. Iraq's oil cannot get out. Kuwait's oil cannot get out. The UAE's oil cannot get out. Even Iran's own oil cannot reach its buyers. According to the US Energy Information Administration, roughly 20% of global oil production, plus 4.5 million barrels per day of refined petroleum products, flows through this strait. Crude oil, diesel, jet fuel, gasoline, all of it. Now imagine 20% of the world's oil supply being cut off for even a single day. Fuel prices would explode upward. Factories would shut down. Airlines would be grounded. Supply chains would collapse. This is why the Strait of Hormuz is called the world's most important energy choke point. And this is exactly why when Iran began laying mines here, the entire world trembled. But first, what exactly are naval mines? Some of you may not know. Let me take 1 minute to explain. Naval mines are bombs hidden beneath the surface of the sea. Picture a large, dark metal sphere covered with small contact sensors. It floats just beneath the water's surface, or sits anchored to the seafloor. The moment a ship touches it or passes close enough to trigger its sensors, it detonates. The explosion can tear open the hull of even the largest vessel. A single mine can seriously damage or outright sink a massive oil tanker. Their greatest danger is invisibility. They cannot be seen from the surface. A ship's crew may have no warning at all. One moment everything is normal, and then an explosion tears through the hull, like an ambush from below. Iran possesses some of the most sophisticated naval mines in the world. Magnetic mines which detect the metal signature of a passing ship and detonate without any physical contact. Pressure-sensitive mines triggered by changes in water pressure caused by a ship's movement. Acoustic mines which respond to the unique sound signature of a vessel's engines, and according to IRGC's exclusive intelligence reporting, Iran has laid several dozen of these devices in the Strait of Hormuz. Just a few dozen mines, and the entire world is on edge. Now imagine hundreds of them. IRGC's exclusive report, sourced from 2 individuals with direct access to US intelligence reporting, confirmed that Iran has begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Who is actually doing the mining? Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. The IRGC is Iran's elite paramilitary force reporting directly to Supreme Leader leader Ayatollah Khamenei, completely separate from the regular Iranian military. In many ways, the IRGC is the most powerful force in Iran, and it is the IRGC that now effectively controls the Strait of Hormuz. The IRGC operates a large fleet of small, fast attack boats that can move quickly through the strait under cover of darkness. They are difficult to detect, they are difficult to intercept, they can deploy mines and vanish before any response is mounted. Here is the detail that should truly alarm you. Intelligence sources told an N that Iran still retains 80 to 90% of its small boats and mine-laying vessels. 80 to 90%. Still intact, still available. What has been laid so far is just the beginning. If Iran chose to escalate, it could feasibly deploy hundreds of mines across the strait. And beyond mines, the IRGC has an entire arsenal at its disposal: shore-based anti-ship missile batteries, explosive-laden drone boats, fast attack craft capable of creating what military analysts call a gauntlet, a corridor of death. Passage so saturated with threats that any ship attempting transit does so with no guarantee of survival. And in Hanin's reporting, sources described the current state of the strait with two chilling words: Death Valley. The passage through which a fifth of the world's oil once flowed is now being called Death Valley. The IRGC had already issued a warning before the mines were laid: any vessel attempting to transit the strait would be attacked. The channel has been effectively closed since the start of the broader conflict. The result, 15 million barrels of crude oil per day plus 4.5 million barrels of refined fuels are now stranded in the Gulf. Iraq and Kuwait have no alternative export routes. Their oil is trapped. Now comes the response the world was waiting for. President Donald Trump took to Truth Social with a post that was notable for both what it said and what it very deliberately did not say. Trump stated if Iran has placed mines in the Strait of Hormuz, and he noted that the US has no reports of this, but if they have, he wants them removed immediately. Now look at that language carefully. Trump said we have no reports of them doing so, and yet US intelligence had already confirmed the mining to end. This was not ignorance, this was strategy. By not officially acknowledging the mines, Trump avoided creating a situation where America was publicly forced into a corner. He delivered the warning while preserving diplomatic space. Classic Trump negotiating tactics: maximum pressure paired with an escape hatch. Then came the threat. Trump warned that if mines have been placed and are not removed, Iran will face consequences, and he used language that deserves to be heard carefully: a level never before seen. At a level never before seen. From the president of the most powerful military nation in history. That is not rhetoric. That is a warning with weight behind it. But Trump also dangled a carrot alongside the stick. He said that if Iran removes what may have been placed, it would be, quote, a giant step in the right direction. One hand holds a threat. The other holds a door open. That is the architecture of Trump's foreign policy pressure campaigns. But if you think this was just words, you are about to be proven wrong. What happened next was even more explosive. America does not just talk. America acts. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth posted on X, announcing that at President Trump's direct direction, US Central Command CENTCOM had been carrying out operations in the Strait of Hormuz. His exact words: CENTCOM has been eliminating inactive mine-laying vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, wiping them out with ruthless precision. Ruthless precision. Those are the chosen words of the United States Secretary of Defense, not privately, publicly. And then, US Central Command made the official announcement the US military had destroyed multiple Iranian naval ships, including 16 mine layers near the Strait of Hormuz. 16 Iranian vessels gone. CENTCOM released video footage of the operation showing US forces engaging and destroying these ships with precision strikes. Let that sit for a moment. The open, public destruction of 16 naval vessels belonging to another sovereign nation with video released to the world is an extraordinary act. This is not a covert operation. This is a statement. The message from Washington is unmistakable. The Strait of Hormuz is our red line. We will not allow this passage to be held hostage. And anyone who tries, we will destroy them on camera in front of the entire world. Trump reinforced this at a press conference, saying the Strait of Hormuz is going to remain safe. The US has many Navy ships in the area, the best equipment in the world for detecting mines. But the real question now is, can America truly secure this passage? And what will Iran do next? To understand what is happening, we need context. Iran's relationship with the Strait of Hormuz goes back decades. Iran has threatened to close the strait multiple times before. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, the strait became a combat zone in what became known as the Tanker War. In 2012, when the US imposed crippling nuclear sanctions, Iran explicitly threatened to shut Hormuz in retaliation. In 2019, multiple tankers were attacked in the Gulf, attacks widely attributed to Iranian forces. The pattern is consistent. Whenever Iran faces extreme external pressure, it reaches for the Hormuz card. It is their version of a nuclear option in the geopolitical sense, an extreme last resort that they know the world cannot ignore. But here is what is critically different this time. Before, it was always a threat, a warning, a bluff, or at least an uncalled bluff. This time, Iran has actually begun laying the mines. They have moved from words to action. That is an escalation of historic proportions. Once you have laid mines, pulling back means showing weakness. But refusing to pull back invites a stronger response. It is a trap partly of Iran's own making, and Iran's military capabilities extend far beyond mines. Hundreds of fast attack boats that are nearly impossible to intercept and mass shore-based anti-ship missiles, with ranges exceeding 300 kilometers submarine, capability well suited to the confined geography of the straight drone swarm technology. Capable of simultaneous multi-vector attacks, regional proxy forces across Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. Military analysts describe this as asymmetric warfare, where a smaller power can inflict disproportionate damage on a superior force by exploiting geography and unconventional tactics. I want you to hold one number in your mind, just one. And then I want you to close your eyes for a moment and feel the full weight of what it means. 15 million barrels of crude oil per day plus 4 million barrels of refined fuels are now effectively stranded inside the Persian Gulf. Not destroyed, not consumed, simply trapped right there, unable to move. And the consequences have already begun to ripple outward. IN's reporting captured the extraordinary volatility this is causing in the oil markets. In a single trading day, the price per barrel swung between more than $90 and less than $80 in a series of violent peaks and valleys. That kind of intraday swing reflects one thing above all: terror. The market does not know what comes next. And when markets are terrified, everyone pays. But let us move past the financial markets for a moment. Let us talk about what this means for ordinary people. When oil prices rise sharply, fuel costs at the pump rise, immediately eating into household budgets. Transport costs rise, which means the price of nearly every consumer good rises. Electricity costs rise. In countries that rely on oil for power generation, fertilizer costs rise. Because fertilizer is derived from fossil fuels, which means food prices rise. Aviation fuel costs rise, making air travel more expensive or driving airlines to cut routes. This is a cascade. A single choke point, 3 kilometers of narrow sea, can trigger an inflationary chain reaction that reaches every household on Earth. And the G7, the 7 largest economies in the world, was already hinting at releasing strategic petroleum reserves. Those reserves exist precisely for catastrophic emergencies. The fact that they were being discussed tells you everything about how serious the situation had become. No country voluntarily destroys its own economy and invites international isolation unless it is operating under extreme pressure with no good options left. Iran is in exactly that position. Iran's currency, the rial, has lost the vast majority of its value over the past decade. Inflation has exceeded 40%. Youth unemployment is devastatingly high. And the broader conflict with the US and Israel has accelerated this economic deterioration. So what are Iran's options? It cannot confront the United States militarily in a direct conventional war that would be suicidal. It cannot rely on Russia or China to ride to its rescue. They have their own interests and their own calculations. Negotiating from a position of weakness produces bad deals or no deals at all. So Iran did the one thing only it can do. It seized the Strait of Hormuz as leverage. Iran's message to the world is essentially this: if you keep us under maximum pressure, we will put maximum pressure on the global economy. If we cannot live, the world's energy supply cannot flow freely. This is a desperate move. It is the last card of a player running low on options. But desperate players make dangerous decisions, and dangerous decisions can lead to catastrophic outcomes. It might be tempting to view this as a distant conflict between America and Iran, a superpower confrontation far removed from your daily life. That would be a serious mistake. For developing nations, particularly those in South Asia and the broader global South, the consequences of a prolonged Hormuz crisis would be deeply personal. For Pakistan, Pakistan shares a border with Iran. Pakistan's economy is already fragile, operating under IMF assistance programs. A sharp rise in global oil prices would weaken the rupee further, accelerate inflation, and hit the population that is already under severe economic strain the hardest. Hundreds of thousands of Pakistani workers are employed in Gulf nations. When geopolitical tension rises in the Gulf, employment becomes uncertain, and the remittances that support millions of families back home can slow or stop. For India, India is the world's 3rd largest oil consumer. A significant portion of its energy imports come from the Middle East, passing through the Gulf. Any sustained disruption to Hormuz transit would threaten India's energy security, drive up domestic fuel prices, and put pressure on an already volatile rupee. For Bangladesh, Bangladesh's garment manufacturing sector, the backbone of its export economy, depends on affordable energy. Rising oil costs mean rising production costs, shrinking margins, and the potential loss of competitive advantage in global markets. What happens in the Strait of Hormuz does not stay in the Strait of Hormuz. The ripples travel across oceans. This story belongs to all of us. I want to leave you with one final thought. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a body of water, it is a mirror. It reflects the world's dependencies, our hunger for energy, our inability to find alternatives fast enough, our deep entanglement with regions and conflicts far from our own borders. It reflects the fragility of the international order we have built. How quickly the assumptions we take for granted can be shattered by a few dozen mines dropped in a narrow waterway on the other side of the world. And it reflects something about all of us, about the tendency to believe that crises are always far away, that geopolitics is someone else's problem, that the price of everything around us is simply the price of things, disconnected from the political decisions being made in capitals we barely think about. None of it is disconnected. Everything is connected. When a mine is laid in Hormuz, your fuel costs rise. When Iranian naval ships are destroyed on camera, the diplomatic options narrow. When oil markets go into freefall, the ripples reach every economy that depends on trade. You are watching these events unfold. That means you are already more informed than most. Use that, share it, talk about it, ask questions, because the more people who understand what is truly at stake, the greater the pressure on decision makers to find solutions rather than escalations. Informed citizens are the most powerful force in the world, and the world right now desperately needs that force. I will leave you with one question for the comments section. In your view, is a diplomatic deal between the United States and Iran still possible? Or has this crisis passed the point of no return? If this analysis gave you clarity or value, please like this video so more people can find it. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, and share it with someone who needs to understand what is happening. Thank you for watching.